Welcome to Takeology with your three boys in the lab so you can do the cooking. We are missing Avery once again, man. But we have the Matthew McDonald here today. I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. College football today. Matt, how are we feeling?
We're feeling good. It's going to be a good day of football. That thing came out where we got like 52 days straight of football coming up here, so you can't ask for more as football fans.
That's exactly right. I am very thankful it is that time of year. Didn't like last week. Georgia got we almost pulled through.
They got hammered.
Oh, hammered's a strong word. We almost won the game and they intercepted in the end zone, but it's okay. It is what it is. Hogs, they're not looking too good either. So
I was about to say it could be worse.
yeah, could be, huh?
Yeah.
Well, at least today we have a favorable matchup. Maybe not Arkansas playing the Vols.
No, we're gonna get mollywopped. I'm just waiting for it.
Good old Rocky Top, right? Oh Lord, orange and white. They come to strike again. But although we're not talking about college football, we are talking about some good NFL football this weekend, right? We'll start with a little bit of a lab report. A few things to just talk about before this weekend to be aware of. Khalil Shakir is out. Now, I don't know if it's too big of news, but he was kind of the top guy in this offense. So, Matt, with Khalil Shakir being out for the Bills, who's next up? Who do you think's getting this ball next? Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman. Well, I mean, what do you think?
I really think it's gonna be Keon Coleman.
Okay.
He's at least been getting consistent target shares with Shakir on the field, and I don't know what's going on with Curtis Samuel. He's just out there running routes. He had 2 targets last game for like 9 yards. I wouldn't put too much stock in him at all. I think Curtis Samuel will be a pretty easy flex play this week. I think you can put him in there, and at least you know there's going to be a baseline of like 10 points possibly, just because he's about it on the receiving side of the ball.
Yeah.
Kincaid's going to get some of those that Shakir is going to give away, but I think the main beneficiary this coming week will be Coleman.
I like that. Matt Collins did also have a lot of targets. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be something consistent. He's had a touchdown or two, I think, this season, but it's just hard to say. But I think Keon Coleman will have a big upside this week, so be on the lookout for that. Malik Neighbors is out with a concussion. He will not be playing this weekend. That opens the door for a guy named Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay, so be on the lookout for him. He's had a ton of targets this season, and I don't think he's found the end zone.
He's
Although
awful
I
to
don't,
watch.
yeah,
He's awful. It's 4 yards a catch, but he's
ah,
going to get like 15 targets. So he's easy. He's an easy play, especially if you're in PPR.
yeah, oh yeah. So it's not a guy you're going to keep long term by no means, but well, I think he's picked up in a lot of leagues already. If not, go look for that name out there, and he could benefit to your team. He could help you out a little bit this week. Um, Trey McBride is good to go this weekend. That is a good news for the Cardinals. They looked really bad without him last week. Not that I think he would have changed much, but Kyler Murray is looking a little rough. So hopefully they can change it this week. Who are they playing this week?
They're playing the Niners.
Oof. They might not turn it around, but we'll see. That Niners defense is tough. David Njoku does not look like he is playing this weekend for the Browns. Not that that's going to change much for the Browns either. I mean, he is a good tight end, but I don't think he's going to be playing. I believe he's still questionable, but he's coming back from an injury. Good news on the other side, T.J. Hawkinson and Nick Chubb have opened their 21-day practice window, so we will have them back to play in fantasy. That is a huge upside for people who drafted them or picked them up on their IR spot. Another side, Joe Mixon will not be playing this week, so be looking for Cam Akers. I don't think Dameon Pierce is good to go yet, is he?
No, but my trade is just looking better and better. He's not playing, and that just makes me happy because this is a great matchup. It
Yeah.
should have been a huge game for Joe Mixon, and that you would in turn think that's going to be huge for Cam Akers. But it's like a 50-50 split backfield when Mixon's not there, and Akers doesn't get the third down work. He doesn't get the goal line work. So you can play him if you're really desperate, but I wouldn't be very excited about it.
I am very thankful you made that trade because I play the guy you traded with this week. So it could benefit me, especially if he doesn't change his lineup.
It
I'm
will
kind of
benefit.
hoping. I'm hoping he doesn't see that he's out, but they always get. It's always that last minute they change it, but it's okay. So Joe Mixon won't be playing. Um, so look for Cam Akers. I mean, a flex play. That's really about it. I could say I don't think he's running back one or two by no means. Who do they play this weekend? I don't think it's a good running defense.
They play the Bills.
Oh yeah, so they run all over him. This would have been a
Yeah,
good week for Joe.
it should have been a good week. Akers just he did not look that good last week,
He did
and it
not.
was a great matchup. So I would not be excited at all about this.
No. Not Deshaun Watson. Christian Watson. There's so many Watsons out there. Christian Watson is out, doubtful, so he's not going to be playing this weekend. Neither is Romeo Dobbs, I don't think. I think it's a personal matter. He's not going to be playing. That means Jaden Reed. I hate to say this because I traded him away. Jaden Reed is probably going to have a huge week. Okay, they're playing the Rams. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. And Dontavian Wicks. Okay, even Tucker Craft. We'll talk about these names more later as we get to the pod today. But other than that, that is our lab. Oh, I wanted to mention this as well. Jonathan Taylor will not be playing this weekend. Trey Sermon. Look out for Trey Sermon. Okay, he could be a good play. They're playing the Jags. Their defense has not been too good. They've had some injuries, and their offense hadn't even been too good. So Trey
I
Sermon.
got one. I got
Yeah,
one as well, and this might benefit you. Austin Eckler is going to play this week, and if Brian Robinson is out because he's been dealing with the leg issue, if he's out, Eckler's a pretty fine play.
yeah,
I
oh yeah.
think he'll. I mean, just the floor he offers because of his pass catching ability. I think you can easily play him this week. Even if Brian Robinson plays, he showed that he can put up production with him there as well. So I think he'd be a pretty good play this week as well.
I like that tidbit there. I've got a predicament this week. We may
I'm
talk
trying to
about it in
help
the pod.
trying to help you out.
Yeah, I may ask you for some advice. I'm in a position that's really tough this week. It's yeah, we'll talk about it at the end of the pod just so I can get the expertise of Matt McDonald here. Okay.
All right. All
All
right.
right. Well, that's our. I appreciate that. Though. I'm gonna be looking. I'm gonna be looking. I'm not gonna turn away some good advice. All right. So that was our lab report for today. Obviously, things are going crazy. This NFL season's been unique. But speaking of unique, Thursday night's football game, I don't think anybody expected any of this production or the type of game that we got. It was a phenomenal game. If you missed it, find a way to go watch it. It was finally we had some good football this season. And who would have thought it was Baker Mayfield and Kirk Cousins, okay? I'll give you the kind of rundown here and I'll let Matt kind of give us his takes and touches on the game. Falcons 36, Buccaneers 30. I thought it was a little bit disrespectful that Kirk Cousins had to set a Falcons record when Matt Ryan was getting inducted into what was it, the ring or whatever it was? I don't know exactly. He was getting a
Ring of
reward,
honor.
Ring
Yeah.
of Honor, and Kirk Cousins over here breaking records. Kirk Cousins threw for 509 yards. And it went to Drake London, Darnell, and even what's his name, the Hodge guy,
Yeah.
Catterell. Last play of the game gets the end zone target. It was phenomenal. Kyle Pitts even had a good game. The other side of this is Bijan. Bijan's not looking too hot. Yeah, he's kind of had a consistency here, but he's looking like he's struggling in terms of in this backfield. I mean, they did have to throw this ball a lot, but Rashad White, we thought that Bucky Irving would kind of start to take this backfield, but Rashad had a 56-yard run where he looked pretty decent. Although they were throwing a lot in this game, Rashad White looks like he's still kind of holding on to that backfield role. Mike Evans did Mike Evans things, had 2 touchdowns, 5 receptions, 62 yards, and Chris Godwin, he was kind of just out there. But this was a good game. So Matt, give me your takes on this. How do you feel about these two offenses and the stats that came through on this?
Yeah. If you have any of the Falcons players, this is a very exciting game for you because it looks like Kirk Cousins is finally coming back into his own. It's taken a few games here, but it looks like he's finally starting to come back from the injury and become the Kirk Cousins that we knew in Minnesota, where he's chucking the ball a million times. And for the Falcons receivers, this is great for Drake London if they're going to pass this often. It's great for Darnell Mooney. He was kind of a guy early on that people either drafted late or he was just a pickup off waivers. And it looks like he's going to be a flexible player every single week. And depending on the game, he's more involved than Drake London sometimes. So that's fantastic if you picked him up. Kyle Pitts finally had a game here. He had 7 catches for 88 yards. It's this. I was listening to Fantasy Footballers. This is his fourth best performance of all time for Kyle Pitts, which is kind of sad to only have 88 yards and no touchdown. But put that aside, he he is what he is. He's not going to win you weeks. You just hope that he puts up his production to kind of help you through the week. But how you were talking about with Bijan, I really think the expectations we had coming into the season of him being just this Christian McCaffrey esque player are just misguided. He's not that. He might have the talent to do it, but the Falcons are proving that they're going to give Tyler Algier carries no matter what, and it's not really wrong to do that because Algier is a good player. He's making the most of the carries he gets, and he runs through the tackles better than Bijan does. All of Bijan's runs were on the outside, and unless he gets in the end zone, Bijan's going to be kind of so for where you drafted him because he was going top five because we all expected him to be the Christian McCaffrey 2.0, and it just doesn't look like that's the case. So if you drafted him that high and that's your expectations for him, you need to just change him in its entirety because he's not going to be Christian McCaffrey every single week. Now, on the Buccaneers side, Laser Mayfield, he is putting up some great numbers for the Bucks. He really is. He's been running more this year, which is fantastic for fantasy owners, and he has two great receivers. It's amazing to see Chris Godwin come back into his own because a couple years ago, Chris Godwin was a heck of a player for fantasy, and then last year he just wasn't utilized in that way. But they put him back in the slot. He's getting 6 targets or more every game, and that's just fantastic if you drafted him late in the draft. And then you were kind of talking about the backfield here. Rashad White, with the exception of that 56-yard run, he looked terrible. I mean, he really did. He did break off a 56-yard run, so that kind of made up for his day. But he was averaging like two yards a carry. And if you look at his receptions, let me see. Yeah, it's 3 receptions for -6 yards. And this is the crazy part. He had a long of -2 yards. So every single one of his catches was for -2 yards. So that's just not what you want to see. And him and Bucky, they honestly had a split amount of carries. It was 10 and 9. And Bucky would have had more if he didn't fumble. And I mean, Bucky lost them the game. There's no doubt about it. They had it in the Falcons red zone, and then he fumbles at the end of the game. We'll have to watch that next week because that might decrease his carries for next week because when teams see these rookies fumble, it can be a reoccurring thing, kind of like we saw in KC with Carson Steele. He got his spot ripped away from him just right away after he had these consecutive fumbles. So that's something to watch. But the receivers for the Bucks, Baker Mayfield for the Bucks, you can start them on an everyday basis. I mean, they really do look great.
I agree with you. Yeah, that backfield is interesting. A lot of people drafted Rashad White pretty high, so to see the return on your investment in terms of when you drafted him doesn't look too good right now. Tell me what you think about this, okay? I think honestly, Baker Mayfield's a guy you can start week to week. Look
Oh,
at the matchups, but Baker Mayfield has proven that he can sling this thing, and this offense is his. You know,
yeah. I mean, we saw this Falcons defense. They held Mahomes in check, and then it seemed like Baker threw for 3 touchdowns in just an instant. Like he was tearing them up. And then when they got up so much, they kind of got conservative and started running the ball more. But Baker, I'm happy for him. It looks like he found a home, and he really is proving the doubters wrong. And he's playing pretty phenomenal this year, which is it's great to see because he's just a guy people picked up off the waivers for free. And with how many struggles people have been having at quarterback this year, it's great to see a guy put this amount of production up that you just got for free.
100%. Yeah, uh, he's just a dog. I'm a big Baker fan. I'm glad he's doing well. Kirk Cousins, although he's figured it out, I wouldn't go grab him and just fight for him for that. I mean, this Buccaneers backfield, the secondary is not very good. Their front line's pretty solid. I think that's kind of why B. John struggled a little bit. Vita Bay is just so good. But look at the matchups. Kirk Cousins could ball out. It does look like he finally has got his kind of niche, and he looks good. I mean, the fact that he threw the most yards we've seen all season is a huge sign to be like, okay, you know what? He's got it down a little bit at least. So great game. Honestly, if you didn't see it, it was just a good game to watch. Young Hong Koo, isn't that his name?
Yeah, he's a clutch guy, man.
What a stud.
Especially because he started off this game missing 2 field goals, and then
Yeah,
he comes clutch up late in the game. So he's a guy that you. I mean, we don't talk about kickers very often, but he has been phenomenal this year. So if you have him, I'm sure you're counting your lucky stars because he's playing great this year.
hopefully. Man, I've been had to kicker wheel a little bit. Had to kind of cycle it. Kind of not fun, to be honest with you. Jake Bakes kind of fumbled the bag for me. I thought he was gonna be good. Maybe that'll change. Maybe that'll change. All right, well, we're gonna go through a few of these games. Kind of talk about some starts that we'd like, maybe some matchup dependent guys. I want to start with one that hits home close to me. Okay, you got rid of a guy, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. So you're welcome to the guy who traded with you and that we allowed it. But for me, I'm struggling. Okay, as a lot of people probably are. Dolphins are playing the Patriots. Okay, there's still no Tua.
Nasty.
It's a nasty game. Let me tell you, this is going to be a sad game to watch. Honestly, I think the Patriots will win. I'm gonna be real with you. On the Patriots side, Ramondre Stevenson, I don't think he's starting this game. I believe they are letting Antonio Gibson take the starting role, which is the fumbling again. Once you fumble, you give that team the ball, they're going to sit you down. On the other side here, Christian Gonzalez is a fantastic cornerback. Who's he going to be lined up against? Tyreek Hill. And that means maybe Jalen Waddle gets the ball, but do you sit Tyreek Hill this week? Personally, I think I'm going to, and we'll talk about that when we look at my team when I ask you some questions. But I think I'm sitting Tyreek Hill this week because we've seen it over and over again. Without Tua, even if they manufacture touches for Tyreek Hill, it doesn't seem like he's getting the work we want. And he's playing against Christian Gonzalez, a good corner, a good defense. So tell me your thoughts on this game. Even Devon Achane maybe he's not a start. I don't know. Well, you're probably starting him, but go ahead.
There's not a guy in this game that I would be happy that I'm playing. Yeah, it takes some absolute willpower to not start Hill. I know it's tough, but it might be in your best interest not to because the Patriots are a good defense. They have a really good corner, as you talked about, Gonzalez, and I don't know if Huntley can get the ball to him. Besides, like if it's by the scrimmage line, I really his targets last week were like 5 yards, 3 yards, and then he got a couple carries mixed in there. This Patriots defense is legit. Even though they lost Judon, they're still really good. The only guys I would think about playing in this game, and I know there's a lot of struggles with Ramondre these past couple games, but I think he's going to be the guy that is one of the only fantasy relevant ones. You might have Hunter Henry come in there and play. He's so wishy washy. You can't play him on a weekly basis, but he could put up a touchdown and 50 yards. But Ramondre Stevenson is about the only guy I would touch. I mean, I know it's bad to say, but even with the Ravens, when Huntley was on this winning streak, we went back and looked. He never threw for more than 180 yards ever. And if you have this explosive offense that the Dolphins have, you need them to throw the ball down the field. And I just don't know if Huntley can connect with Hill or Waddle. I think Achane could be a start just because of how many dump offs he'll receive. But Achane and Stevenson are the only guys I would feel comfortable playing this week.
Yeah, on top of that though, be careful with HN because Morster is back. He will be
Yeah.
playing this weekend. And I think that's a big struggle that they've had in the run game because really HN kind of thrives off of splitting the backfield a little bit. Kind of getting where Morster will get those big like moves and then he can find a hole to run through. But Tyreek Hill, it's hard to say I'm going to sit Tyreek Hill, especially. But honestly, I think this week is the week to say I'm going to sit him. If he balls out, I'll start him from now on, kind of vibe. This is the week where if Tyler Huntley does connect with Tyreek Hill, you can have hope until Tua comes back. But I think if Tyler Huntley can't get it done, you're sitting him from now on because you can't take the risk of getting 3 or 6 points from your number one guy, or you could put a guy in that might get you at least 10 because they have somewhat of a consistent offense. So it's crazy that we're even having this conversation, but it's something you have to think of and something that is considered. So
It's sad. It really is sad.
yeah, I don't like that. I'm probably going to be sitting him. You'll see my team here in a second. But I probably will be sitting this guy and watch. The one time I sit him though, he'll ball out. So for those who do start him, I hope that's your set. That's how it goes. But it is what it is. All right, this is a game that hits home for Matt McDonald. Okay, this is a big game, honestly, for the Chiefs this weekend. They are playing a good defense in the Saints. Their offense is up and down. Okay, this is a hard matchup for Alvin Kamara. I don't like that this week. And they do have a good run-stopping defense. Their corners, they're really the Chief defense is good. There's nothing you can really say bad about it. They've kept them in games. What I want to focus on though is Clyde Edwards-Helaire's back. You've got Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, Kareem Hunt. Right? To be honest, in my opinion, you're not starting any of these running backs because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know who they're putting in first, even if it's a good team. But I really want to focus on this receiver side. Okay, you've got Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Nicole Hardman. Obviously, you're starting Travis Kelsey, and because Rashee Rice is out, he has a bigger lookout or outtake or whatever the case is because he's going to get the ball. But which receiver, as a Chiefs fan, okay, which receiver do you think is going to be like? Who should you start out of this receiver field?
I don't know. This is a very important game to kind of see the outlook for Worthy going forward because as of now, as the season has progressed, we've either used him down the field or along the line of scrimmage. There has been nothing over the middle for him.
Yeah.
What he had the one play last game to seal the game, running across the middle to get the first down. But other than that, he has been used nowhere near the middle of the field. It's all down or all along the line of scrimmage. So I really wouldn't feel comfortable starting Worthy until we see him utilized like with the full route tree, not just downfield, not along the scrimmage, but along the whole field. That being said, I think this is going to be a game where like Justin Watson gets a touchdown, Juju. I don't think it's going to be Worthy. That's why I honestly, if you have another option, I wouldn't start any of them. But if you're struggling and all you have is Worthy, I would feel I would feel like you have to play him in that sense. But you talked about the running backs. I wouldn't start any of them. It looks like Kareem Hunt is going to be questionable for the game, and Clyde might not even play either. So it could just be P Ryan. I wouldn't start Carson Steele. I think he has kind of lost the grace from the coaches there. He might be mixed in a little bit, but P Ryan had a 40% share of the running back room last week. So I think if Hunt is hurt, I think it'll mostly be P Ryan, which is not exciting for fantasy. I wouldn't start him. The only guy, if you have him, you're going to be starting Patrick. It could be another dud week, but I think Travis Kelsey is the only guy on the Chiefs side that you can start and actually have upside there. Worthy might have a 60-yard bomb. He might have 2 points. There's really no telling until we see how they're going to utilize him with Rice out of the game. But I think Kelsey is your most consistent guy who I think he's really going to blow up now without Rice out. I think he's going to be the old Travis Kelsey because the Chiefs need it, honestly. He's going to be the main focus of this offense until we either trade for a receiver or Worthy becomes more of a complete receiver.
Yeah, Travis Kelsey definitely is the guy of this team right now. And I think they'll step up and they'll use him. I don't know what's been going on this season. Maybe they've just been trying to save him because he's a little older, which, I mean, it makes sense. But Travis Kelsey, we hope we'll see a higher usage rate in this team. On the Saints side, really, you're starting the guys that you have, like Alvin Kamara. There's no question there. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, though, this is a tough matchup for them. So if you had something else where somebody else had a good, favorable matchup, I mean, I'd start Chris Olave probably over Tyreek Hill this week, to be honest, if I had that option, which would be crazy. But it's just one of those things where you want to look at your matchups and say, okay, who am I going against? I'm a little nervous about Alvin Kamara in this matchup because this defense is good. But Derek Carr finds a way to get him the ball in the backfield. So it is what it is. And I believe Taysom Hill is good to go for this weekend, which is a big piece of their offense.
Yeah, you were kind of talking about the Chiefs defense is legit good. We're the number one against the rush, which I know you don't love to hear. But I will say, Kamara offers you such a floor because of how involved he is in the passing game. So I think Kamara will be a fine start. Olave is going to have McDuffie on him the entire game, and that's going to be a tough slate for him. I think this could be a Shaheed game because he's going to have the second corner, and he's such a good deep threat guy. And the one area that the Chiefs have kind of struggled with is these deep passes. And Shaheed, that's what he does. It's just a matter of if the Saints line can hold up against Chris Jones and our other rushing options on the defense. But I think you can play Kamara with ease. I mean, you're going to play him no matter the matchup. That's how good he's been this year. And I think the same for Shaheed and Olave as well. Even though Olave's got McDuffie on him, I don't think you can sit him out. He's been very consistent, and I think you have to play him regardless, just because the state of the receivers this year has been tough. I mean, there's not many options that you would play over Olave right now, so I think you have to play them both. Shaheed had a great week last week, so we'll see if he continues it against this defense.
I think they can. Derek Carr. This team's looked good. It's a big game for both of them. A bigger game for the Chiefs, I think, just to see how they play without Rasheed Rice. So I know you'll be nervous watching that game.
I'm never nervous. Best
Oh,
quarterback in
oh,
the league.
okay. Fantasy wise, though, there's probably some guys that I'd rather start over Patrick Mahomes.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I'll admit that he
yeah,
he's not. I wouldn't even. I don't even know if he's top 10 right now, just because of the way our offense is set. It's a lot of dink and dunk. So there's a lot better quarterback. I mean, you saw Baker Mayfield and Kirk Cousins. Patrick Mahomes is not going to have a line like either of those had. So if you have other, I mean, I would probably play Sam Darnold over him, even though he's playing the Jets, who are a good defense. Sam has proven us all wrong. Now I mean, he could pumpkin at any time, but
yeah.
so far this season, he has looked great.
It's revenge game too. I hope Sam Darnold just balls out against the Jets. I love the story, so I hope he goes crazy against them to see what they missed out on after they've been through such quarterback turmoil. Okay. All right. This next game, there's some guys that are interesting starts that could ball out for you, but also could do nothing. Okay. Packers versus Rams. These are two defenses that aren't that solid. Rams don't have a good defense at all. Okay. They might be near the bottom in terms of defenses, honestly. I don't know their ranking. But the running backs, you're starting Josh Jacobs, you're starting Kyron Williams. You're probably not starting either of these quarterbacks, maybe Jordan Love only. Matthew Stafford, you're not really touching. But the receiver room on both of these sides could be favorable this week. Jaden Reed is a guy you're putting in, you're playing him. He's going to ball out because Watson and Dobbs are both out. But Dontavian Weeks had such a good week last week. I think he had more targets than Jaden Reed, I'm pretty sure. And he had, what, 2 touchdowns, I believe? He had like 23 fantasy points. Looked really good. And this Rams secondary is not good. So these two receivers, even Tucker Kraft, he had a pretty good game last week. He could be a guy that you want to stream or put in there. But my hot start of the week is Dontavian Wicks. That is a guy that I think you should put in. I have him in my dynasty, so I'm excited to play him. He is a good young guy, and I think Jordan Love, because Jaden Reed's going to get the number one guy from the Rams, although he's not just like an outstanding corner. But I think this is going to be a shootout on both sides. Jordan Whittington seems like the hot start for the Rams. Seems like the guy that's going to get the ball. He's projected the most. Matthew Stafford's throwing this ball all around. So, Matt, you talked about Jordan Whittington a few times. How do you feel about these two teams playing each other? And it's probably a high octane offense on both sides.
Yeah, this is going to be a shootout. The Rams defense, it's young and injured, and when you lose Aaron Darnold, they just need a lot of help. But it's great for us in fantasy because even though they are without Puka and Cup, which is crazy to think after they started off the season so well, but Whittington has kind of taken that role of where Puka and Cup lined up in the slot, and he was very involved last week for 6 catches, 88 yards, something around there. Uh, it kind of depends. I think Tutu offers you the most explosiveness just because he's such a good deep threat target, and he could have a 60-yard touchdown in an instant. But I think Whittington is going to get the most receptions and possibly the most yards if him and Stafford continue the connection they had last week. Um, Kyron is an easy start. He has played this year well. I mean, he has 5 touchdowns, almost 300 yards so far rushing. So he's an automatic start. Josh Jacobs has looked good. It was a little odd. It looks like they're going back to the committee backfield, which is not it's not amazing to see if you have Josh Jacobs. But I mean, Aaron Jones had a lot of success, even though it was a committee when he was there. So I think Josh Jacobs can still have success. I mean, he has over 300 yards right now rushing. He's been pretty efficient. So you just kind of got to keep rolling with him. And then, like you were talking about the Packers receivers, I think they're going to be amazing this game. Jaden Reed's going to be a smash start, and then as well as Dontavian Wicks. He had an amazing game last week. Should have had 3 touchdowns, but he had a bad drop. So I think he was the number one waiver pickup for most leagues. I think he's going to be phenomenal. If you have Jordan Love, put him back in the lineup. He
Yeah.
looked a little rusty last week, but towards the end of the game, he was tearing them up. So put Jordan Love in with confidence. I would not start Stafford. It's just this the Rams' offense is depleted, so it's kind of the Kyron show. But I think Whittington will be a good spot start for a lot of people that are struggling with wide receiver depth or injuries. And it's also the start of bye week, so we have a lot of players out.
Yeah.
The
Titans.
Eagles. Yeah, that sucks for me because I have Gibbs and AJ Brown, so that definitely sucks. But that's just how fantasy works. So with bye weeks coming in, I think Whittington would be a good spot start as well as Wicks. Wicks is probably one of my favorite receiver plays of the week, honestly, because this is going to be just an absolute shootout. And if you got Jaden Reed, start him away. I know you traded him, but
Man,
if you have him, start him.
it just hurts. Sometimes when you make a trade, your trade's going well, right? Joe Mix is not playing. But when you lose a guy that just begins to just turn up, I should have waited. I also hit the button too quick. I'm enjoying Josh Jacobs, and I know he's going to turn it around. I think a lot of people think, oh, he hasn't had that many. But he's had a good amount of yards. He's had at least 10 fantasy points, almost a game with no touchdowns. And Jordan Love was out for 2 of them, right? So you got to think there's only upside from that for Josh Jacobs. And the receivers are going to look so good. Christian Watson, he's always going to be injured. It is what it is. It's every year it's been like that. So I'm super. Dontavian Wicks is the hot start for this week, 100%. You want to play this guy, honestly, no matter what, just because of the upside of how big of an offensive game this will be on both sides. Really.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And I like that you point out the bye weeks because I forget about that sometimes. But yeah, some big receiver names out. I mean, even Malik Neighbors can't play him because of concussion. So a lot of guys that you can fill in there. This next game probably will not be an exciting offensive game. It'll probably be the exact opposite. Okay, I don't know if you know where I'm going here, but Broncos Raiders. Man, talk about a game that's just kind of going to be sad. Okay,
Nasty.
nasty game right here. So there's not going to be a Devonta Adams. He's not going to be playing this weekend. He's getting traded. Honestly, I don't know where he's going. Okay, hopefully a good team. Maybe the Chiefs over here is what Matt believes. But the Pat Surtain treatment. I want to give you some stats about this. Okay, I saved this for today. It is crazy how good this guy's been playing. So the receiving stats for receivers lined up against Pat Surtain. You ready for this? DK Metcalf had 3 receptions for 29 yards, no touchdowns. George Pickens, 2 receptions for 29 yards, no touchdowns. Mike Evans, 2 receptions for 17 yards, no touchdowns. And then 5 receptions for 41 yards from Garrett Wilson, no touchdowns. This man has locked up elite receiver after elite receiver after elite receiver. And who is he going to be lined up against this weekend? Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
So honestly, I would not start Jacoby Myers this week. I understand that he is now the number one guy for the Raiders offense, but he is going up a defense that people are sleeping on. The Denver Broncos defense genuinely is a good defense. Their offense on the other side, the only person you might start is Cortland Sutton and Javonte Williams. Really, that's the only 2 guys you might start. So speaking of that, I just recently got Javonte Williams, man. I know he has not done well, but the Raiders defense is one of the worst against the rush. They give up, I think, like 5 yards a carry, average. Even some, like every running back that's won against this defense has ran the ball well. They've had good games. Is this the week that you start Javonte Williams, and if he doesn't do good, you sit him? Is this? Do you think this is a week you're starting Javonte Williams? Talk about this with me. Give me your insight.
I feel like we've said that multiple weeks, and he just continues to claw his way back. Uh, he's basically it for the Broncos running backfield right now. They've had countless injuries. That the Beatty or Batty, whatever his last name was,
Watson.
he had a great game last week, and then he's now hurt. So if you're going to start Javante, I think this is the week. He had all the work last week, and he looked okay, and he was involved in the passing game as well. But you're just talking about bad running backs on this game. Zamir White is going to be out this game, so Alexander Madison has the backfield now. I wouldn't. He might have brighter things in the future if he's the number one guy there. But this week, for example, I would not play him. This Broncos defense, as you pointed out, is phenomenal. They held the Jets last week to 9 points. It's just that is embarrassing. And the Broncos won scoring 10 points.
Yeah.
That that's why I don't have any sort of confidence starting any of the players from this game because, like you said, Jacoby Myers, he's going to be shadowed the whole game, and then there Trey Tucker, he
Yeah.
he might be better with the season progressing, but this game I wouldn't touch him. And this could be a game that Gardner struggles and we see McConnell come in. That would be great for Myers going forward because that's his favorite target, Jacoby Myers. But this game, I wouldn't touch him. Like you said, Sertan is playing phenomenal. You can't pass the ball on him. And if you can, it's just in the prevent defense or anything just in front of him. It's never anything downfield. And then the Raiders, I think Brock Bowers could have a pretty good game. That's the only area that the Broncos kind of struggle in. But Alexander Madison, I'd leave him on your bench unless you have no other option. And then no way in heck am I playing Bo Nix. There's so much more. There's so many more options that you can play out there. But if you're in a pickle, Javonte Williams, he's at least going to get all the carries, and this should be a low scoring game. So I think it'll be really run focused. So they're going to be running the ball a lot, whether it be Bo Nix or Javonte. So I think you can play him. You're kind of hoping for that touchdown because he's not going to have a ton of yards. So if he gets a touchdown, at least you'll have a okay week from him.
Yeah. Interesting game. I think the Broncos honestly are going to win this game.
They
The
probably
more
will.
the more they play, the more they get used to Bo Nix kind of in the NFL. He's looking decent. Okay, I'm not back on the train like me and Avery have said. We're on the caboose. We're in
He
line for a
threw
ticket.
he threw for 60 yards last game.
I
I don't want to
understand.
hear he's looking
I
decent.
understand, but I think he'll be better the longer it goes. The more he plays in the NFL. We're in line. We're in line for a ticket, Matt, on the train.
I don't
But
get it.
you never know. I do think the Broncos will win this game, though, solely on defense. Their defense really is slept on. It is a good defense. And if I was somebody out there looking for a defense to pick up, I'd pick up this Broncos defense for this weekend.
I tried to get him.
Yeah, I
Couldn't do it.
seen. Man, Avery, he pulls through sometimes on these waiver wires. I don't want to talk about
It's because
waivers,
his team's so bad. That's
and
how he
that's
pulled
it.
through.
That's right. I'm waivers make me mad because I messed it up and I got a kicker and I can't. Okay.
Yeah, you
Uh,
fumbled the bag on that one.
I had an opportunity for a lot of guys, but fantasy ESPN. You know what? Sleeper is a better app. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm just gonna say, okay,
Sleeper,
Sleepers.
give us a sponsor. We
Yeah,
love you.
please, please. We love you, Sleeper. We're huge fans. ESPN fantasy, your cheeks.
Doo
Okay,
doo.
doo doo butt. That's right. All right. So next game. Who do you have winning? You got Broncos winning too?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be like 13-10. It's going to be a terrible game to watch, but I think the Broncos defense is so good, and Max Crosby's out again, so
Jesus.
I don't know if they can create any pressure on the quarterback. So
Javante
I've got
Williams.
yeah, I think this if there ever was a game to play him, it's this one,
Yeah.
but we'll see what he's made of. He's proven me wrong. Never. He sucks. So we'll see what he looks like.
If he does do bad against this defense, it shows you he's just washed at this point because this
Uh,
defense puts up a lot of runs.
if he does bad, drop him because Estime, the rookie that they drafted, he's going to be coming back soon. So there's no reason to have this guy on your team.
I picked him
Now
up. Yes.
he could have 30 points this week. We'll see.
I hope so. We'll dive in a little deeper. I'll show you my team. Tell me who to start. Okay. All right. Next game: Colts versus Jaguars. I believe Anthony Richardson. Jeez, bro. Sometimes I'm telling you, I believe he'll be starting. I'm not starting him because I got Jaden Daniels. Okay. But honestly, I don't know if you start him. You tell me what you think in a minute, but I don't think you start this guy. He has just not been good in the passing game. He is not accurate. He does have a huge ceiling. He could get you 20, almost 30 if he's throwing the ball well. But with Anthony Richardson playing and Jonathan Taylor out, I'm not playing any of these receivers. If you have a better option, sit him. I mean, because we have seen over and over again that Michael Pittman, even with a lot of target usage from Anthony Richardson, can't get it done because the ball is not accurate. Now, this Jags defense, it's not that great, obviously, but I still don't think Anthony hasn't played the best of the best. So, but if Joe Flacco was playing, it's a different question where you start these receivers. Do you think Trey Sermon is a start for this week?
I do. The Jaguars are a terrible defense. You really could have a good week, but on the flip side of that, Cam Akers was supposed to have a good week against the Jaguars last week, and he didn't perform. So
Yeah.
you you could be in store for a 50-yard performance and no touchdowns. You kind of have to roll the dice on it because it should be a good play. The Jaguars are a bad run defense, but with these backup running backs, you just never really know. Zach Moss, though, he did come into this situation last year and performed well. So I think this Colts offense works well for running backs, and it sets them up to succeed. So I think Sermon would be a much better play than Cam Akers was last week. So I would start him if I had him, especially if you have Jonathan Taylor. If you have Jonathan Taylor, start Sermon immediately.
Oh yeah, it's automatic flip there. Trey Sermon was really good in college, but he played
Yeah.
at Ohio State, right?
Yeah, he's a good
He was
running
dog.
back. He just happens to be behind Jonathan Taylor. So I think he's a pretty good start this week.
Dude was a unit back in the day. I remember that name. Freaking scary, big thick boy. Is what he was. All right. Well, on the Jaguar side here, Travis Etienne begin. I got rid of him. I'm kind of thankful. Tank Bigsby really seems to be taking a lot more carries and doing better with it. Travis Etienne, he does seem like he's in the passing game more than Tank Bigsby is, but Tank Bigsby's finally what we thought he'd be after 3 years now. Although this offense has been awful, they're 0-4. I would have never thought that the Jags are the worst team in the NFL right now, because I think they're the only one 0-4. Is that correct?
Yep.
That's awful. Even the Panthers have more wins than the Jaguars. In this receiver room, I mean, do you start Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk? I mean, the Christian Kirk kind of finally came out last week, and I believe Evan Ingram is playing this game. So this is kind of a weird game to think about the Jags here, but I mean, tell me what you think. I know you got Brian Thomas, and he's done well for you. So
Yeah, I think you've kind of seen the progression of Brian Thomas. He's starting to get better and better, which you usually see with the rookie receivers. So I think Brian Thomas is a fine start. Christian Kirk, past 2 weeks, he's had like 10 targets, 11 targets. I think he's becoming what we thought he would in this offense. It seems like they just forget about him, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, he's a pretty good player. We need to throw him the ball." So I think Christian Kirk will be a fine play, but Ingram, like you said, is questionable for this game, but everybody thinks he's going to come back. So if Ingram is back, I don't know whose workload that's going to eat into. I'm guessing Christian Kirk, just because Brian Thomas has become the target share leader. He's become the one on this team. So I really think Christian Kirk, this will hurt his value if Ingram comes back and is the same Ingram we saw last year. Because people forget Ingram was a good player last year. I mean, he was like top 5 in tight ends. So if he comes back and puts up that performance, this might be what the Jaguars have been missing is the tight end presence on this team. So we'll have to watch. This is a great matchup for tight ends. So Evan Ingram might have a great game. On the Colts side, I wouldn't touch Anthony Richardson. He could burn you and have 30 points, but he could also re-injure that hip or re-injure something. He's gotten hurt a million times. So I wouldn't play him either. But if he is playing, that sucks for the receivers because it basically downgrades all of them to just flex options at most. and it's crazy to say, but the receiver that is the best with Anthony Richardson is Pierce, and
Yeah.
he's the worst out of the bunch. So I would be scared to start any of those receivers. Michael Pittman's going to probably have like 5 catches again. It's just with Anthony Richardson in the game, he has no upside. The only guy that has upside is Pierce because of the bombs that he throws down the field. So it everybody wants Flacco to play. So I wouldn't necessarily. I'd be happy if Flacco played, but it doesn't look like he's going to.
Anthony Richardson was so hyped up. It kind of is sad that that he was drafted so high. I mean, I wish I would have changed it. Like honestly, I should have punted the quarterback position and went with Jaden Daniels just from the beginning. But it's crazy how fantasy football works. It's ups and downs, things you don't expect. Honestly, you can't write this out, right? You can't. It's crazy how it's gone. All right, real quickly, I want to give you my start of the week. I don't know if you have one, Matt. Okay, you might, but my start of the week this week is a team we haven't talked about, and it's Najee Harris. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys have not been a good defense this year. They just haven't. Micah Parsons is not playing. Demarcus Lawrence is not playing on this defensive side, and was it Warren is not going to be playing this game either.
Jalen Warren.
Jalen Warren will not be playing. I keep wanting to say TJ because TJ Watt, but Warren will not be playing. So Najee Harris has this backfield to himself. Justin Fields has really looked good. And just like with Anthony Richardson opening up the field or Lamar Jackson opening up the field, Justin Fields does the same thing because he can burn you on his legs. So he upgrades the running back, in my opinion. Najee Harris has looked decent this year, and really this Pittsburgh Steelers offense has looked good this year. Justin Fields just balled out last week. Honestly, he might be a hot start himself against a bad Dallas Cowboys defense. But I think Najee Harris will ball out against this front line of the Dallas Cowboys. They have not looked good. They're missing their key pieces, and I think he'll ball. So my hot start of the week for sure is Najee Harris. We'll see if that turns out, but I honestly hope the Steelers win this game. So Najee Harris, smash that, put him on.
I don't mind it at all. He's going to get all the carries. He looked bad in the running game last week, but he was heavily involved in the passing game. And I, if he's getting all the workload, you're kind of just betting that he's going to come through for you. But he's capable of it. I do like it. I do have one for you if you want to hear it.
Yeah,
It's
go
kind
ahead.
of it's kind of a nasty one. I think the Browns lose this game. Don't get me wrong. I think the
Okay,
Commanders are winning, but they are such a terrible defense. And at the target share Amari Cooper has been getting, it just has to work out one of these games. We saw last week he got called back on an 82-yard touchdown.
yeah.
I really think this is Amari Cooper's game to explode, and I think he's going to be a great play this week. The Commanders have been bad against all fronts, running backs, receivers, everything. And it does look like Njoku's going to play. So I just checked. It looks like he's going to play. I
Interesting,
think I think that upgrades this offense
big
because
time.
Njoku's the guy that Watson can kind of go to when the offensive line does struggle, and they are bad. The offensive line is straight up bad. But if there's another target that they have to worry about, referring to the defenses, I think it opens up a little bit of the field for Amari Cooper, and I think he has a good game this week.
I respect that. I know you got him on your teams. That's part of it. But really, honestly, any receiver going against the Commanders' defense, you want to start him. This secondary is god awful. If this defense was actually good, the Commanders would be a scary team. They would
Yeah.
be a very scary team.
And if you're struggling with receivers, Jerry Judy has been very consistent.
Right.
So now we'll have to see with Njoku coming back because he could take some of those targets away from Judy.
Yeah.
But I mean, going back to Cooper, he's gotten like 8+ targets every single game. I just don't see how that doesn't at some point the dam doesn't bust and he doesn't have a great game. But on the same side of the coin, I want the Browns to lose because I want them to trade Amari Cooper to the Chiefs. So I'm hoping he has a good game, but I'm hoping that the Browns lose.
I respect it. I got the Commanders winning that game. I think they have looked so good offensively. I know this is a good defense, but they're just legit. I'm
Well,
loving Jaden Daniels.
the Browns are a great defense, but when your offense is that bad, you can't make up for that.
Yeah.
the whole game. Like they look great, but when the offense is three and out, three and out, three and out,
Right.
you can't stop them every single time. And the Commanders' offense is legit good. So I don't know. It's kind of a nasty play, but I'm feeling it this week.
I respect it. So you're starting them on your team then, I'm assuming. Okay.
I'm
Well, you have
starting
to.
to.
You have to.
Yeah, I've got a lot of bye struggle this week. AJ Brown, this was finally the week he's going to come back, and now he's on bye. So
Okay.
and Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's playing the Giants, which you think is a good matchup. But if it's a blowout, they're just going to run the ball. So I don't want to play him. I think I might play Brian Thomas this week. He's in a good matchup against the Colts, so he might be in my lineup. I'm kind of making the decision between him and Cooper. They both have great matchups, so it's just a matter of which offense will do better. Right now, I'm leaning Amari Cooper, but Brian Thomas could easily be the play as well. They're both good plays, in my opinion.
I think you go Amari Cooper personally. The Colts have a better defense than the Commanders do, and
That's the way I'm leaning.
it'll be a blowout. I think honestly on that side because Anthony Richardson, if he's playing, he just hasn't looked good. It's a 3-and-out, and then the Jaguars are competent enough with Evan Ingram, I think, to get up high and then run the ball.
It's hard to say a blowout though because they haven't cracked 20
I
points.
I know,
The
but
I don't know what's wrong with the Jaguars.
they have the potential, right?
They
They have
have
the
they
potential.
they have a great offense. It's just their defense is terrible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll have to see. This has to be the week that the Jaguars start playing better because they're getting to the point where they're going to miss the playoffs if they don't go on a huge run here. So
Yeah.
we're gonna. I mean, Doug Peterson looks like a terrible coach right now. So
They're going to be
we'll see.
changing it.
This is kind of a put up or shut up game for them. So we'll kind of see here.
100%. All right. Well, give me some advice here. I'm going to give you my struggle for this week.
I'll pull up your team.
Pull out my team, okay? I'm in a pickle, okay? We talked about Tyreek Hill. We talked about sitting him, especially. I think I'm going to sit him regardless just because I've got Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Zay Flowers, okay? Zay Flowers doesn't feel like a good start just because the Baltimore Ravens are just not schemed that way. Deontay Johnson's even a hard start this week because Chicago has such a good defense. But I got to do it. George Pickens, I think, is a smash start. I think they'll ball out. He's the guy. But my flex option is where I'm struggling, Matt.
Yeah, I see that.
That's where I'm struggling. Okay. Obviously, Javonte Williams, I think he could have a good game, but it also could be such a low scoring game. Austin Eckler is kind of spicy. If Brian Robinson is out, I definitely might hit that. But what do you think I should do here? I mean, Tyreek Hill, no. Zay Flowers, not really. I mean, it's a
this
tough
is
position I'm in.
this is a tough one. Just off first impressions, the way I'm leaning is probably Austin Eckler, which is crazy to say because he stabbed a knife in my heart last year.
I know.
But it's really hard to trust the Ravens, and because I saw Zay Flowers sitting down there,
Yeah.
and your immediate reaction is just, oh, play Zay Flowers. That's an easy choice. But if the Ravens if they start with the lead in this game, which is likely, it's going to be hard. Okay, I'll pose you a question to see what your opinion is because this factors it in my opinion. Do
Yeah.
you think the Bengals can keep up with the Ravens and it'll be a competitive game?
Yeah. I mean, they kept up with the Chiefs. You know what I mean? And they were balling. The Chiefs were playing good that game, really. I mean, and it was like the Chiefs versus Ravens first game of the year was the Bengals versus Chiefs. So I think personally they can. Their defense is a lot better than we thought it would be. You know what I mean? And offensively they look good. So I think they can.
So if you feel that way, I would go with Zay Flowers. And my reasoning on that is if it's a competitive game, they're going to be so with the Ravens, if they're winning, they are going to run the ball the whole game. That's
Yeah.
just how they are. And when they get behind, something switches in their heads and they just go into passing mode, which it has not been successful. I'm not saying that's going to work out for the Ravens, but we saw last year in the playoffs when they played the Chiefs, they threw 40 something times.
Yeah.
And if they would have just ran the ball, they probably would have beat us. But I think if this is a competitive game, there's going to be a lot more pass volume, and I think you can trust Zay Flowers in that situation. Now, he's kind of a go big or go home guy, but I really think you can trust him more than Javonte Williams because I really think that game is just going to be low scoring and you're just betting on a touchdown.
Yeah.
If this is a competitive game with Cincinnati, I think there's going to be a higher volume level for Flowers than there is for Javonte. So I would go Flowers. Eckler is in consideration there, but if Robertson plays, it's going to be tough for Eckler to have anything crazy good. So I would go Flowers in that situation.
Okay. I like it. He had 10 targets first game, 11 targets the next game, and then 4-2. It's because they whooped up on the last two games. So that's why I was like, man, I would love Zay Flowers on my team, and I traded for him because of the target share. But the Ravens are so unique.
But that kind of points out what we were talking about. KC and in the Raiders games were both competitive,
Yeah.
and they were very close games. Dallas, you kind of expected to be competitive, and then they kind of blew Dallas out. So same with Buffalo. So
Yeah.
personally, I think it will be a competitive game because the Bengals are at full health right now. Their defense sucks, but their offense is full health. You got Higgins, you got Jamar Chase. Both of those running backs in Cincinnati look pretty
Good.
good.
Yeah.
So I really think this will be a competitive game, and I think Zay Flowers is going to kind of have a comeback week here.
So I like to hear. Let's hope it's now. Watch. I started him Sunday. He's going to have one catch for 1 yard, thanks to Matt McDonald. But we'll see.
Well,
That's how the table falls sometimes.
hopefully that's not the case. I will say though, your opponent here, he is struggling as well. I mean, having Waddle in your starting lineup that sucks. So
I don't know how he's doing it. It's tough. It's a position. He's in a bad position. So this is the week. I need to win. I'm 1-3, guys. I need to win this week. Okay. So believe with me here.
I mean, I think this will be a pretty. I'm not going to say easy. I don't want to jinx you, but I think this will be a pretty good week for you.
Let's hope so. You look like you're going to pull through too this week. So especially after
Well,
the one.
I always seem to do so.
This guy. Well, thank you so much for the advice, Matt. I appreciate it. We'll see if it pans out. Okay. Do you have a bold prediction like an upset this week that you didn't see coming? I love to do those. We're usually
Let,
wrong, but
let me see. Let me see. Let me see. The NFL's been so weird this year.
yeah, it's been an awful
I
setup.
really think this isn't really a bold prediction because I think a lot of people might feel this way, but I feel like the Steelers have the potential to win that game. Um, let me keep looking through here.
Really, it's pretty even matchups this week. Carolina Chicago is the one that's kind of middle of the pack. It could go one
Yeah,
way.
I think Carolina might win that game. Okay, I'm going to make it. This might be stupid, but I'm going to make it. I'm going to trust on a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback with a bad defense to pull through against the young Packers. I'm taking Rams over the Green Bay Packers.
Oh wow, interesting take. Okay, all right, Rams over Packers. I like
Yeah,
it.
I think I mean the Rams really are deep at receiver,
Yeah,
and if Stafford is a top 10 quarterback, I really like Stafford.
yeah,
And they have a great running game as well. I think it'll be a shootout. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to be like a low scoring game. That's why we like it so much for this week in fantasy. But I think the Rams at least have a chance of winning this game. Everything else looks pretty even, but I think this could be a game that surprises people. I mean, the Rams beat the Niners with the same depleted squad.
yeah.
So the Packers are a young team. They shot themselves in the foot last week with the mistakes they made early in that game. And if they make the mistakes this week against a quarterback like Matt Stafford, he can just run that clock down. And I think the Rams have the potential to win. Hey, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a scary thing to
Yeah.
predict, but
Yeah.
I think the Rams will pull it out.
I respect that pick. I'm going to go with the Jets over the Vikings. I think the Jets can pull through. I know I want Sam Darnold revenge game. I do. But I think after playing a good defense in the Denver Broncos, they kind of didn't come in prepared for that. I think that the Jets, I mean, the week before, they balled out. And they scored, what, like 30? So I think they can do this against this Vikings. The defense is so good. I think they can stop. Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson and all of them. But we'll see. I think it'll be a good game, but I think they get the Jets pulling through. First, I thought the Vikings, but I feel like that's a bold prediction because they're the underdogs. The Vikings are hot right now. So,
Yeah, that one has the potential. I thought about it. I just I don't know with Aaron Rodgers.
yeah.
He looked great in the game 2 games ago, and then looked terrible last week. And the running game for the Jets looked terrible as well. So I think you're onto something. Sam Darnold could pumpkin against this good defense, but we'll kind of just have to wait and see because Sam Darnold's he's proved us wrong all year. So
Man,
we'll kind of have to wait and see on that.
the sacrificial baby.
Yeah, I don't think he is anymore.
No, no, he's a man. Man's man, dude. He's out there balling.
I'm happy for him.
I am too. That's why I hope he wins. But I got the Jets. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
The
Uh,
Dolphins should take some lessons on getting a backup quarterback. Jeez. I
seriously,
mean, like, look at the Colts. They thought it was smart to bring in Flacco, and they end up winning a game when their quarterback goes out. I don't know what the Dolphins were thinking, having what Thompson as their backup quarterback, and then bringing in Tyler Huntley like that's going to change
it
anything.
didn't do anything.
It's it's an embarrassing move by the GM to have that bad of backup quarterbacks.
Ryan Tannehill would have been a way better option, honestly.
Especially when you have a guy like Tua who's already had 4 concussions. It's likely that a fifth one was coming. It did come, and now they're just dead in water. So I don't know. It just makes me so mad for us that drafted Dolphins players. But it is what it is now.
Organizations need to be prepared for injuries. That's just the truth. I wanted to update the people if they've even listened this far, right, or if they've even still deep in the trenches. But our pool, what we've done is we've selected different teams to win and not win. We've been choosing games. Guess who's on top?
Probably Avery.
It's me.
Nice.
I'm
Let's
pulling
go.
through, baby. I've picked 34 games correctly. Matt, you've picked 32. And Avery at the bottom of the pack has picked 30. We're just experts here. It's what we do. We know what's best. We'll see how it looks after this week. But that is all we've got today for Takeology. We thank you so much for joining in, for listening. Don't forget we have a YouTube. We're live there right now. Like and subscribe, right? Share it with your friends, right? Spread the word. They need some fantasy help. Send them our way. We'll help them get better. I mean, Matt just showed me the right path to take this weekend. He can do the same for you, right?
Tried to at least.
Yeah, no, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. But thank you again for joining Takeology. We will be back here Monday night talking about some football and talking about these Week 5 games. Hopefully they're good. But we hope that you have a great rest of your weekend. Go Dogs and go Hogs, and we'll see how they do. But y'all enjoy some football and have a good time. Thanks for tuning in.
Woo pig, baby. Woo pig.
Sick 'em dogs. That's my brother here.